Okay, thank you everybody for joining. Welcome everybody to the second Aguda webinar. Today we are focusing on selling in a COVID world. How can we maximize your sales during this time? My title is National Director of Development, Naftali Miller, and it's my privilege to be joined today by Mark Badner, Naftali Horowitz, Leibel Schwartz, Shirley Shane. These are leaders and experts in the world of sales today. I would like to thank my colleague Shai Markowitz for helping arrange this webinar. Mark has over 20 years of experience in the distribution industry. He's previously held positions as President and CEO of Ally Supplies Co., and he currently holds the position and CEO of the member of board of directors of L&R Distributors. Mark also serves on the board of directors of several nonprofit organizations. Naftali Horowitz. Mark Horowitz advises multinational organizations and affluent families in all wealth matters. He's active in Kyiv and lectures globally on the topics of sales and personal growth, and is an author of You Revealed, published by ArtScroll Masora. Leibel Schwartz. Leibel has helped brands grow in the business by creating content that provides a deep connection to true essence of who they are as a company and as a person. Leibel brings a new and fun experience to companies to educate and instill confidence like none other. Shirley Shane. Shirley has leads a team of clinical and financial professionals who is a liaison between healthcare providers and insurers. They negotiate contract terms and ongoing patient authorization. Shirley authorizes his strong relationship with insurers and understands the healthcare and reimbursement to better serve the clients and around the country. It is now my privilege to introduce our moderator, Naftali Mark Horowitz. By day, Naftali is titled Mr. By night, his title is Rabbi. It is now my privilege to introduce him.
So good afternoon to those in the East Coast. Good morning to those in the West Coast. Shalom, all salespeople of Klal Yisrael. What a 9 months it's been. I was in the sales role, I am in the sales role, and I haven't seen the inside of my offices for 9 months now. Yet the world goes on. And as we know, sales is the lifeblood of the economy, and you're all the lifeblood of your companies. We know that sales is a personal business. It's an interaction business. It requires human interaction. It requires great motivation. So we've assembled a team of 3 experts, 3 successful salespeople who have seen tremendous success in Siyata Shmaya. We're going to try to uncover some of the secrets of what makes for a successful selling experience in a time when human interaction and face-to-face meetings is certainly a challenge. So I'm going to open it up with my first question. In a world where face-to-face meetings are unlikely to occur, how are you prospecting for new business? Let's start with our friend Leibel.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Afternoon. Such a treat. Can you see me? I don't know. I'm looking at. Very good. Hey, everyone. Such a treat to, for one, join you. A panel of some of our clients, a lot of my mentors. So it's a treat to be able to be with such people. It's a really great question. I think that I and all of our companies that we work with have had trouble with. And I think it comes down to the same nakuda. Everyone communicates differently. And Naftali, you're the one that mentioned this so beautifully in our pre-sale, pre-meeting. If I told you there's one way to create a successful communication, it would be a lie. Because I communicate in one way and you communicate in another way. And the reason why people love working with you is because they connect to you in your way. You told me before that during COVID, you've been writing letters, right? Connecting to human beings. The way that I've been doing it is for myself and for my clients, creating social content. And everyone messages differently. If people say video is the way to go. Not for everyone is video the way to go, but for those it's perfect for, it's perfect for. Writing, some people can connect through writing, and now it's a great time for them. So what I've noticed is in all of my successful companies I've spent time with, the one thing they get to, the closer they can get to their essence of who they are, the more connected they are and the more powerful they become and the more valuable they become. So now is a time to really, people are rethinking. Can I use video as an option? A lot of times the answer is yeah. Can I use writing as an option? You know, we used to just go interpersonal, but now is actually a time where a lot of my people have been introspecting and finding new ways. And what I tell everyone is, don't do what you think is right. Go inside and find out what's truly right for you. And that's kind of where my philosophy. It's funny because a lot of people come to me for headshots, portraits, and they say, I want to look a certain way. I want to kind of have a certain vision. And I say, well, why? And they say, because I think that if I look a certain way, people will feel about me a certain way. So I say, who are the people that you look up to? So they tell me. So I say, those most successful people, they don't mind they're not trying to be someone else. They don't mind being themselves. Why? Because they made it. They made it. So I tell them, you could either copy them and try to look like them, but if you try to copy them, you won't be yourself and you will not be them. But if you learn from them and get really close to your strengths and your essence, that's when you'll turn into the best you and hopefully the most valuable and profitable you. Is that helpful?
Naftali?
I'm sorry, I got knocked off for a second.
Okay.
So I'm going to pose the question to Sruli. But Sruli, can you focus a little bit more on, great job label, by the way, focus a little bit more on prospecting. So we know how we prospect in a normal world, speaking to referral sources, speaking to clients, getting out there, networking. Can you focus a little bit in your answer on how you're prospecting for new clients in this world that we live in?
Sure, I'll try to focus on that. Firstly, just thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Aguda, for having us, and it's really a privilege. Just to go back to the question a bit, the question was, now that we're not doing face-to-face meetings, how do we prospect? How do we try to, and what are we going to do about that? So hopefully you can hear me. But what I'd like to address is really what I've been feeling. And again, you know, everybody's situation is different, but what we felt is that sales and branding and marketing really go hand in hand and they go together. So now is a very good time when you're distanced in the sales end of it to brand yourself and market your product as best as possible to your potential clients. Because if they know what you do and they know how well you do it, when they need you, they're going to come to you. So if it's in social media, it could be in advertising, it could be in blogging. Think about how you can get the message across of what you do and how well you do it. That way, when they're looking and when they have a need, you know what's going to come to mind? You're going to come to mind. And I feel that this is a perfect time for people to focus on that end of it when they're usually just typically focused just on sales. I know my video is gone, so I apologize, but hopefully you can hear me. But I just, as a quick example, just this morning, I walked into the office, we got a new employee, and trying to be a friendly guy, I said hello to him. And I've never met him before. And he told me he knows who I am, he knows what I do. And that was because that's what we focus on. We focus on branding ourselves and we focus on putting ourselves out there. It's a little bit uncomfortable. It's a little bit not natural sometimes for you to put yourself out there. But if you're confident in what you do and you realize you have value to bring to your clients, show them what you do. Let them realize what value you can bring to them. So when they need that value, they're going to turn to you first.
Excellent. Mark?
Sure. Well, thank you to Aguda for hosting. Thank you to my good Chaver Naftali Miller. We've done several things over the years together, and everything Naftali touches, you know, he's been gifted by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to have that Midas touch, I would say. So it's an honor to be here, and I honored to be selected to be on the panel. So thank you. So from my perspective, you know, many of you may be familiar with Simon Sinek and many of his concepts. One of his concepts that have always resonated with me was you need to really understand your why. Why is it that we do what we do? If you look at at business in general. Business in general is a game, and what our revenue is or how much money we earn really should be how you keep score, whether we're winning or losing the game. But really understanding that why, I think Label pointed it out really well before in explaining his why as to he goes about his clients. When his clients say, "I want to look like that person," Label's why is, "I want you to look like yourself." My goal is to make every individual feel good about themselves. It's a very powerful statement. In today's world, in this COVID world, I have to say, number one, I've had the opportunity to have face-to-face meetings with clients by getting somewhat creative, flying into a market potentially, and meeting in a Starbucks if they're willing to. So we've had several opportunities to do that. Hard to do in many industries, probably impossible. Where I have gone, what I've really talked to my team about in great depth is think of ourselves today from a sales perspective as miners, right? How often and will we have this opportunity again? How often do we have the opportunity and will we have this opportunity again to look at our existing client base and say, what can I do for them, for my existing client base, more than I'm doing today or I've done in the past? There is so much opportunity in your existing clients. We're always striving for new, right? New is exciting, it's fun, it's gets your juices flowing. I have a client for 5 years, and he's a good client. He pays his bills. We see steady increases every year. But if you deep dive into that client and say, I wonder what is there to expand my business with them, we have found that our existing clients, looking at the last 8 months, I can tell you in my business, we had a pre-COVID budget and a post-COVID budget. And our post-COVID budget was almost 100% around this mining experience of going deep with our existing client base and learning what can we do more. And we've been quite successful at bringing our clients ideas, changing processes and how we are going to serve them. And it's resulted in obviously our pre-COVID budget is out the window, but we've actually
lost them.
We're experiencing some internet problems probably with Zoom. Naftali, could you go back to him and then go to the next person, then we'll come back when he.
Okay, sure. So we'll go on to the next question, which really ties into the first question, and we'll come back to Mark when he gets back on. So in listening to what you're saying, what I'd like to draw out of each of you, if possible, are thinking much broader than your own business, thinking about human connection, thinking about rapport building, thinking about staying in touch with clients, and thinking about building rapport with new clients.
I'm back.
Is he back?
I'm back.
Yes.
Where are you?
So I'm right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And that's my headshot done by Label Sports, by the way. So it's a little plug. I'll go back on. I'll go back on video.
There you go.
So I mean,
Now you're back.
yeah. Where I ended was, I think where I ended was, if you think about the foundation you've built for your business to now build additional business on top of, how much stronger is the foundation of my company today than it was pre-COVID? So let's enforce that foundation. We don't get the opportunity. Let's hope we never get this opportunity again, right? This is not something that we're looking forward to. But if we had the opportunity to really solidify the foundation and grow, and then as this pandemic, goes away and we can go out there and go look for new business and new clients, I've propped existing business to be stronger than it was before.
Okay, so Mark, before you dropped off, I posed the next question, so I'm going to repose it so you hear it. What I'm looking from each of you is to share some creative rapport relationship building ideas as specifically as you could. So label, you talk about my letter. Think about what kind of letter you would write. Think about the kinds of things you would share with your clients. Think about the information you would have available to them. What we're trying to do is we're trying to build rapport and relationship in a world where sometimes it's only on a conference call, sometimes it's on a Zoom call, and sometimes it's only an email. So let's start with Srili. Srili, give us some ideas, some creativity. How would you reach somebody and touch them in this world that we find ourselves in right now?
It's a great question, and it's something that we all struggled with, especially in the height of the pandemic. How are we going to be able to maintain that relationship and hold our clients' hands? And I'll tell you what we did, and you can apply it to whatever your business is. But what we try to do is two things. We try to help our clients wherever they needed help. It might not be something that they signed up for services wise. It might not be something that's in our wheelhouse of things that we generally do. But if that's where they need help, we went out of our way to try to help them in that situation. So it could be something that we're learning on the job and they understand we're learning it. But if that's where they need help, we're going to show them that we're there for them in their time of need and we help them. And at the same time, we expanded our services and expanded our business knowledge because of that fact. But I want to tell you specifically something else that we did, which again applied to your industry. During the height of COVID, there's a lot of information that about your industry, even now. About your industry, whether it's a government regulation that's changing or COVID related, there may be some issues on how you're doing business. And if you can update your clients and give them valuable information that because you have your finger on the pulse of your industry, send that information to them. And I would expand that to not only sending it to your existing clients, but even to prospects. We found it to be very successful. If you send prospects helpful information that they didn't even ask for, you just say, hey, a friendly email with no sales at all. Hey, I hope you're staying positive and testing negative. Here's some interesting information that I thought you might find helpful regarding some changes related to COVID. Send them that information with no sell. They got it. They're thankful. You just gave them a gift that they didn't give you anything for. So when you're going to follow up with them a bit later and say, hey, you could even reply to that email where you just sent them information, say, hey, wondering when we can catch up for a couple of minutes. They're so much more inclined to help you because it's like kosher bribery. You just gave them something and now they owe you one, and it's been very successful. So that's just from my experience, what we've been doing, and it seems to have been working.
Excellent. Mark?
It's I think this applies to pandemic, no pandemic, from really a sales style. But and I'll describe it in a second, and we probably doubled down on this through the pandemic, is our customers all have pain points. Regardless of the field that you're in, every one of our customers have pain points, issues that they have to resolve, things that are difficult for them. We have a policy in any sales deck that we put together is in the first 10-page slides of the deck, we do not talk about ourselves at all. Zero. We don't mention anything about our company. We don't mention, all the wonderful aspects that you people like to do. Because quite frankly, in today's world, where number one, attention spans are not that long. Number two is certainly in a video world, clients are really interested in gaining solutions to their pain points. So the concept that we call it is being interested versus being interesting. Let's try to understand if you could do this ahead of time, whether it's an in-face meeting or a Zoom meeting, and put together a deck or even just have a conversation and open it up with I see you, your company, your team is going through this particular situation, you as an individual protecting, and so we've done some research as to what we have that can potentially help you resolve it or solve it. Would you be interested in learning, what we've done, the research that we've done, and the solutions that we've come up with to try to help you with this problem that you have? I've only had one person out of 100 answer no to that question. it's a door. It not only is a door opener, but you're showing the client, you're showing the person that, okay, we're getting down to brass tacks right now. Okay, this is, you have them sitting, generally they're sitting up at the edge of their seats, they're engaged, right? Having an engaged client, as you all know, is the if they're not engaged, you lost the sale, end of game. If you are engaged, if you can get them to be engaged by asking that type of a question where it's about them, and you make the conversation about them, I can give you a guarantee that when they start asking you questions about you, you've probably have a really good chance of landing that opportunity. So it's something that we've been successful at. It's a style of that many people want to talk about the attributes, not of themselves, not from an ego standpoint, but they're comfortable talking about their businesses. We're all right. I can turn to any one of us, and we're all comfortable with what we do, right? It's I can talk about my business. You can wake me up at 2 o'clock in the morning and ask me a question about my business. I can go on and on for a half hour, and that's great, and we should know that. But in today's world,
It just keeps happening. Let's move on to Label. Label, you hear me?
I can, yes, sir.
Okay.
So
Maybe he'll come back. See what happens.
so this concept of how you deal with,
Give us some creativity, Label. That's your business. You're in the business of creativity.
here you go. This is exactly where this is something I'm beyond passionate about, and I've always talked about, is that when you have a new idea, I have a philosophy that you do the first 3 for free. Means we talked about getting to essence and figuring out where your strengths lie. By the way, I want to finish with Mark. Mark, can you just finish up?
I don't know where I got dropped. There's something wrong with my computer, I guess. So I don't know where I got dropped.
By the way, as a Wall Street guy, I have an itch to sell all my Zoom stock.
Are we ending with Mark? Letting him finish?
I think one of the things which we learned from this pandemic that we don't have to be perfect, and I
That's
think
exactly
that,
right.
and I think
That's right.
I think that's what we learned. Okay, go ahead.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. So when we were walking into 2020, you have to remember that the large majority of our business was in live events, like large event, like large percent of our business. And I was talking to my clients, we had scheduled budgets, and we'll walk in, it's all live events. It's either going to be corporate in their spaces, it's going to be trade shows, it's going to be something out in the public. So we had very quickly had to go back to my business strategist and kind of figure out our companies had budgets. They were allowed to us, but our problem is there an echo? I'm getting an echo. Allowed to us, but we needed to figure out how to get that. So my philosophy is you always do the first 3 for free. Now, when I go to my clients, I tell them, here's a fun idea. Now, if I try to pitch them on an idea, we're in a pandemic, right? You're not pitching anyone a new idea of how they should spend more money with you, right? So I've always said, take an opportunity, and always when you have a brilliant idea and it's really closer and closer to your essence, do the first 3 for free. What the first 3 for free means is I go to my clients, and I do it all the time. Anytime I've created a new element of business, I've done the first 3 for free. I go to my existing clients who trust me. I say, guys, here's a brilliant idea I want to do. I believe this is the future of where I'm going. And these are the steps I want to do. And I use my backing from wherever, my profits from wherever I'm working otherwise to fund the project. But I tell them like this. If I tell them I have a new idea and I want you to pay for it, all of a sudden, once they're paying any amount of money, they have say in the project. If I tell them I'm giving you a crazy opportunity, I want to test it, but I want to do it exactly the way that I know that I can do it perfectly, then what happens is I can do every step of the way perfectly. Now, if I create a system that works perfectly with my essence, then as soon as I'm done with the first 3 and I do them perfectly, I have a showcase to show to the world, and we go straight to retail, right? So for example, here in COVID, know what we didn't work for 3 months, right? Siyata Shmai, thank you Hashem, we doubled this year. And that's without working for 3 months, and without having, you know, all of my previous business basically snatched. So what did I do? I went to my CEOs and I said like this: I have a brilliant idea. I want to sit with you. I want to put a light on you. I want to put a mic on you, and I want to just get to the essence of where you're going, so you can get your word out. So I sat down with Avrami Brown, which is Global Tech, and I said, Avrami, just sit with me. Give me an hour. It's a gift to me, and I want to try the first 3 for free. I sat down with him for an hour, filmed his process, got into exactly who he was. The next day, I delivered to him 6 pieces of what I call micro content, these tiny pieces to get true to the essence of who he is, where his company is going, so he can showcase that to the world who he can't reach. And he said, Label, you're sitting on a gold mine. So now I know it works. Once I've proven concept and I invest myself, then I go to my next client. I went to MinCap. I said, guys, I have a brilliant idea. Sit down. Second time, they said, Label, brilliant. From there, we opened a completely new element of business. I did it 3 times, totally for free. At the end of that, they all went on contract. Why? Because I got closer to my essence. I gave first. If you tell them that you want them to invest in something first, I feel it's an unfair ask. Let me do the work. Let me put the product on your tongue. Let it explode. Realize that you can't live without it. And once I show you my essence and you can't live without it, and I help you grow your business, I'm not asking for a sale. They're asking what's next step. And then I bring it to the rest of the world. So I always say, try doing the first 3 for free. You think you have a brilliant idea? You invest in it first. You give first. And like Shirley was saying, you give first. They feel that. They feel that you're investing in them. They're ready to invest back in you.
Thank you, Label. I'm going to weigh in on this question myself, because this has been something that I've thought a lot about. So Mark said something about going deeper with existing relationships. And if you think about what we've all experienced in the last 9 months, we've experienced a period of time where people came face to face with their mortality. People lived with fears they never ever thought they would ever face in their lifetime. Young people, and especially older people. And it's always been my approach to sales to be there for clients in ways that far surpass the actual role that I play for them, which is their wealth manager, and try to all aspects of life as an educator, as a connector, and as a person who they can talk to about anything that's on their minds. So I encourage you all the participants out there, you're all B'nai Torah. We're in a period of time where people are grappling with trying to understand the world, trying to understand what's going on, why it's happening, what that means to them. And most of all, what does the prospect of potentially getting sick and dying mean to us? These are very, very big existential questions that people are facing. And even as the pandemic, Baruch Hashem, will hopefully end, I think that we're going to have a generation of people who are going to be changed in that regard. So what I would say on this question is, think about where your Torah and where your upbringing can give chizuk to other people, whether they're Jewish or not, whether they're religious or not. The answers to the world's questions lies with us, the Am Yisrael, who's supposed to be a light to the nation. So think about that. And, you know, Label spoke about the letters that I wrote. I was quite sick with COVID in March and April. My clients were very worried about me. They were worried about getting the virus themselves. And I wrote several letters of tremendous chizuk to people to explain to them why God does these things, what we're meant to learn from them. Those letters went viral in many instances. I didn't intend them to do that. I intended them to calm my clients down and to build a source of connection. The other thing I would tell you to think about is, you know, really this creates an environment where all bets are off, meaning you can really do anything for a client right now and touch them in a way that you couldn't otherwise. So in the beginning of the pandemic, as an example, I called up a client of mine who's a huge medical distributor, and he sent me a box of K95 masks, which, as you know, you couldn't get a hold of. And I shipped 3 masks to every one of my elderly clients right at the beginning of the pandemic. I was sending groceries to older clients that were locked at home. I was sending toilet paper to people. The other thing I was doing is I was speaking to some of my clients who put me in touch with immunologists. And I was really understanding how the immune system works, how antibodies work, what are T cell memory cells, and so on and so forth, because people were grappling with information overload on the internet. And even though this doesn't fall into Wall Street's purview, so to speak, every one of you has a relationship and a trust relationship with your clients. So think about the kinds of information that they need right now to put them at ease, to calm them down, to stay positive, as somebody said, and try to be that source of information. And conversations are taking on completely different contexts and depth today, even though they may be only on the phone, and even though they're not face-to-face over a lunch meeting, still, there's so much important information that people need. And whether it's regarding your industry or whether it's regarding anything that's going on out there, I encourage you, think about how you can be a connector, how you could be an educator, and how you could be a source of calm and inspiration. So let's jump to the third question. The third question is motivation. Motivation is difficult. I've been working in this room, as you can see behind me, since the beginning of March. I've not been inside the offices of JP Morgan since then. And it's tough. It's tough to be motivated. It's tough to motivate the people. I hired 2 new team members during COVID who I've never met. And how are each of you staying motivated? How are you motivating your team in the event that you cannot work with them in the same office? And just give us sources that you're drawing from to get that those motivation juices going. So Mark, you want to start, and hopefully we're going to keep you on the whole time.
I switched technology mediums. I'm now on my iPhone.
Watch that happen.
Can you accept? Is it coming through okay?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So hopefully the iPhone works better than this $3,000 laptop that I'm going to probably return tomorrow. So in terms of motivating, I talked earlier about, if you have to hear, about customer engagement, engaging your customer, interested versus interesting, really understanding what their issues are. As it relates to your team, I found as a leader of my business, very similar, Naftali, what you were saying is how can you be there for your clients? It really became, how could I be there for my team? And I did 18 straight weeks of town hall meetings with my existing team, knowing that one of the things that my team did, I mean, technically we were, frontline workers. I service retail stores, supermarket, and drug across the country, and we have people going into stores. I had teams of people waiting online with customers to shop stores, and they were only letting 10 people at a time in a store. So through my town hall meetings, I learned a lot about the challenges my team was having, and specifically from a sales perspective, how do I get into my customer, and how do I service the store correctly? Which led to, okay, let's develop a SWAT team around that. In terms of, if you're having trouble, call this number. We posted a brand new 800 number that was fully, and we were able to, had all access to every store manager, for example, and we were able to get our people pulled out of those lines and into their workplace to be able to do what they do. So these town hall meetings that we did, and I moderated these meetings, and it was a really interesting thing. Never done this before, but I said, we had a couple of topics, but really was an open forum. Ask any question. There are no questions that cannot be asked at this forum, and it really gave people, and at times I had, hundreds of people on these calls. and it gave them a lot of comfort. It gave them confidence. It gave them the capability to cope and deal with what they were dealing with. I mean, people working from home. I mean, not everyone, Naftali, has an office like you have to work in, right? Not everyone has an office like I have. I have a private office in my house. Imagine people who are working at their dining room tables with six kids running around. It's not easy. So to me, that was a very, very powerful tool. We also held, we have monthly sales meetings. We went to weekly sales meetings, Monday morning, 10 a.m. for about 20 weeks straight. And it gave us the opportunity to understand what the challenges our top tier sales team was having, and being able for people to collaborate. Said, well, I had that issue as well, and this is how I resolved it. So amongst themselves, it created a collaborative environment for them to be able to really. It was a lot of them answering each other's questions and giving each other tips and advice. So when you look at from a culture standpoint, what you can, you look at this as opportunity from a culture standpoint for get your team together and have them have that collaborative mindset, which is something that is ingrained in the principles of our business, but actually see it happening in action was extraordinarily powerful. I just want the opportunity to say this message. You look at 2020, and for whatever reason, we feel like, okay, we're going to turn the calendar and it's going to be 2021 and everything is just going to magically be better or different or improved, and this is all going to be over. It's not. So as we are entering this holiday week, I've been telling everyone, you may never have this opportunity in your life again to gain the learnings of 2020 ever again. Let's hope we don't. If you were born in 1910, someone born in 1910, they went through World War I, Great Depression, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the oil embargo, right? Life-altering, worldwide, pandemic-like events in their life. Us youngsters on the phone here, right? Like people born in the 1970s, or late 60s, 70s, maybe even the 80s. I'm not sure what everyone's age bracket. But we can struggle. What was a worldwide altering event that we've had to deal with in my 50 years on the planet? I'll ask myself the question. 9/11 ish, not there. So if you look at it and say, wow, I may never get this opportunity to capture the learnings that I captured in 2020, and let me celebrate in that. I'm not grateful for it, but I can celebrate the fact that and really internalize all the learnings. And as I said before, in one of my previous answers, shore up the foundation of your existing company or existing sales team, and you'll come out of this ready to grow, because you can put more floors on top of a stronger foundation. So that's kind of how we went about in some of the things that we did. And it's not too late. You can still do that with your teams, because we're still in the pandemic. We're still going through stuff. Countries are locking down again. So it's I think it's a very powerful way to do things.
Zerly, would you like to weigh in on this? You seem like a very motivated guy. How are you doing it?
Could you just shoot the question again? So just so I recall, make sure I'm answering properly. I want to make sure I'm giving everybody the answer.
We drew a motivation from working with people, face-to-face meetings. In general, it's been a time where people have been sapped of motivation and Simchas HaChaim in general. And we know that sales requires enthusiasm and motivation and resilience. And all of these things are being tested during this pandemic. As we read the news, we hear the bad news, and we're sitting alone sometimes and working all day on our own. So we're looking for some creative ideas, how to get your juices going, how to motivate the people that work for you, and how to lift up your clients, their spirits in general, get everybody back on a smiley face type of an environment.
Got it. Okay. So one thing, just to preface before I tell you, a little bit about what we do for motivation, but I feel like I'm coming across the wrong way, but sometimes, you might reference to your mashkiach or your rebbe in yeshiva that told you, you are who you surround yourself with. But it's really true over here, where again, you may be working from home, you may be working yourself, but if you're collaborating, whether it's via phone, text, or email, whatever it is, with other like-minded people that are in a positive state of mind and are motivated, that's who you're going to be. If you're going to be in a depressive zone and that's where you're standing, and you may be alone with that, or you may be with other people that are in that non-motivated kind of feeling, that's naturally how you're going to respond. So just the preface, number one is keep that in mind. Surround yourself with other motivated people, bounce ideas off them, talk to them. That's how you're going to keep yourself going. And in regards to a more general point, I think Mark mentioned it earlier, is that you have to know what your why is, and why you have to kind of question yourself, why am I actually doing this? And as a firm person, we have a much more strong purpose, more than a typical person that may be doing sales. A typical person that's doing sales is motivated by a couple of more dollars, maybe I'll take a vacation in a couple of months and get to see the world. We have so much more purpose in that we as Jewish people have, why we want to do something, whatever stage in life we're in. We want to support our family, we want to continue living a Jewish life, and whatever expenses come along with that. It is expensive, and we want to pay for that. We want to help other people, whatever that is. If you really think about it and understand what your purpose is, why you're doing this, you'll stay motivated, whether you have to make a cold call or an email or reach out to somebody and you're doing something uncomfortable. You know exactly what the purpose is, why you're doing it, and that is putting your foot on the gas pedal to push you right through why you can stay motivated. At least, that's one point of understanding why you're doing it. And I think us as a community, we really have a very powerful engine there that should push us along. Just one more point that I'd like to make is that, a lot of times we're not motivated because we've been rejected. We've been rejected because people tell us that they're not interested in our product. And, some people will tell you, don't take it personal. It's not that they don't like you, they just don't like your product. It's not true. They don't like you. That's why they're saying no to you. They don't like you and your product. But you have to really have the confidence to understand that, look at how many times you've been successful in the past, whether it was in your actual industry that you're doing right now, in other areas. Remember and be confident about who you are and how successful you can be. And yeah, brush it off. If you want to be a statistic, you can let them say no to you and you walk away. But if you want to be somebody that's going to be a more successful person, brush it off, keep moving, and stay motivated. That's what I got to say about it.
I would just add.
All of our participants.
I would just add, when we had our pre-call, I was very inspired by everybody to put myself out. So the next day I put out a video, a short story that I had interaction with Ray Trank, and the amount of comments that I got from people of the story that inspired them was unbelievable. And I saw a tremendous lesson. Well, what Shirley mentioned, he puts out a weekly video, a short, you wouldn't expect from his position to put out that video, but he inspires people with 2 minutes, every single day. And I mentioned earlier, Mark, in the summertime, during the height of the pandemic, I reached out to him that we should help out rabbis across the country with school supplies for their family. And through his company, he was able to teach them that they should do something good through all the craziness. And he inspired his workers to take on this responsibility to do an act of good through the company for all these teachers and all these people through the company. So by getting your employees to do an act of good also creates that positive energy in the company.
Agreed.
Okay. Shirley, you stole the chapter out of my book with your answer. It was very, very good answer. The motivation comes from connecting to purpose. I will disagree with one thing that you said. I don't believe anybody ever said no to you personally. I think it's only to your product. I can't imagine someone who says no to you personally. So Label, quickly, because we're going to run out of time soon. We want to open up to some other questions. Tell us how you stay motivated, Label.
So it's an incredible question. My philosophy is again, going back to essence, you have to know your essence and you have to know your strength. Now, part of knowing your strength is being able to ask. And I always say, don't be scared to ask, because as Mark mentioned, there's a million things. I know where I'm strong, but there's a million things I have never tasted before. So I have a business strategist, David Wonderman. So did I ever taste 2008? Absolutely not. Did I ever taste business, downturn? Never. So I stay true to my essence and never be scared to ask. So I feel people, I need to know my business better than anyone else. No, you need to know you better than anyone else. And then from there, when you're confident in who you are, you have no problem, and you're not intimidated to ask someone for advice, for guidance, because that's their expertise, which will only lift you up. Now, speaking on the other point of staying inspired, I'll tell you a really special story that happened recently. So we've been sitting, as I mentioned, with a lot of CEOs this year, just sitting one-on-one, really connecting. And we have an incredible person on the team who's is a videographer from the Dominican Republic. And one company, two companies, three companies, four companies in, he comes to me, and after every, we're meeting with incredible Rabbanim, we're meeting with industry leaders, and after every one, he would say, Label, he would go home and review the footage just to re-listen to these lessons. And after, I think probably four of such days, he came to me and says, Label, I told my wife, if I was to be born again, I want to be born Jewish. And I said, Samuel, I actually called him Shmuel. I said, Shmuel. I said, why? What the heck? What? He said, I'll tell you why. He says, and again, I don't know how appropriate I'm going to say it anyway. He says, because it's his quote, he says, Label, when we go to our place of worship, he says, we talk about doing good and being great and doing the right thing. He says, but it doesn't always translate when we go home. He says, I'm going with you to these big CEOs, these incredible people that are dealing with crazy amounts of business. And what are they talking about? They talk about their business because they have to. They talk about doing the right thing. They talk about, especially now, how they're helping their employees, how they're giving charity, how they're making organizations way past that they're more interested in than even their business. He says, that's the type of person I want to spend time with. So what I've noticed is the great people, when I'm spending time with these great people, the great people are focused on business. But when you really get down deep into what their passion is, it has another element. And if you have that other element, that's where you become a well-rounded person. You become a well-rounded leader. And we have to remember our inspiration comes from the Torah. And just as a last point, it's fascinating how this week, I believe, is the one week that we, in the Parsha, that we do look at how did someone deal successfully in an incredible economic downturn, right? Yosef Atzadik, what did he do? Yosef was different. If I'm correct, he was different. He was Masal Savasarov. He connected to his essence. But what happened? Any place he was, he rose to the top. He was true to his essence. He was with his father, became the favorite. He got thrown in jail, rose to the top, became an Av Lapar. And what I've learned from here is if you can stay true to your essence and know where your power comes from, then you can get close to your essence, stay incredibly valuable. And at that point, you could even stay inspired and inspire those around you.
Amazing.
Excellent. I'm just going to wrap it up with one thing that I found to be, a couple of things I found to be extremely helpful. As a salesperson, positivity and enthusiasm is the lifeblood of what we are. We're people want to work with us if we're positive. We have to be motivated and enthusiastic to get up every day and handle rejection and all of the pushback that we get. So I know this is going to be difficult, and I practice what I preach. Stay off the news. I really encourage you all. The more you read about the negativities of what's going on, the numbers, the dire outlooks, how much longer this might take, you don't even realize it. It's insidious. I remember in 2008 when the world was crashing during the Great Recession, I found myself coming to the office thoroughly depressed. My clients were calling me up. They were losing millions of dollars. And I didn't have the energy to cheer them up. I didn't have the energy to give them the faith. to keep going and to hold on and so on. And what I did one morning was I stopped reading the Wall Street Journal and I sort of stuck my head in the sand like the proverbial ostrich. And guess what happened? I found myself being in a completely different mindset when I got to the office, and I was there for my clients. So my doctor told this to me during COVID when I wasn't feeling well. He says, stop reading the news. I stopped reading the news and I kept away from the news. So try and really set it up. Try to surround yourself with positive people. Try to surround yourself with positive energy. Try to find the silver lining in everything that's going on right now. Try to learn the lessons of the virus because it will go away and it will change a generation of people. And the other thing I would just say is, I know this is obvious for salespeople, try to stick with the schedule. Try to get up in the morning and not work from your desk in pajamas. Try to put on a suit or whatever it is that puts you in the mindset of at the office. Try to sit at your desk. Try to keep it neat. Don't eat your cornflakes while you're sitting and talking to a client. Anything that you wouldn't do in your office, you shouldn't do at home because your frame of mind and your mindset is going to come across through the telephone. And most importantly, it's going to either sap you or it's going to motivate you. So now, Naftali, I turn it back to you. And if there's any questions from the audience that you have that you want us to answer, let's try to do that or follow up on what anybody else said.
So first, I would like to thank all the panelists. I think the feedback on the chat was very, people really appreciate the sentiment that was shared. One particular question, this was for Mark. He wanted to know what experience did you feel when talking to your clients of the issues that they had being out of the office for 8 months? When you started asking them, what did you hear their shortcomings, their challenges, and how did you address those challenges? Were you able to be helpful to them in any of their challenges that they were experiencing, your clients?
That's sure. Happy to address that. So the whole concept of the good thing for us is that this has been something that we have focused on for several years. So this concept of interested versus interesting. So it's natural. It's a natural inclination for us to do that. And of course, quite frankly, I think as Naftali points out in his book, and I'm happy to plug Naftali's book because it is off the charts, really, really. And he's done an amazing Chesed V'Klal Yisrael with that book. But when you, so for example, I would talk to a client. They're all working remotely, but they're all hovering over their numbers, right? They're looking at their numbers and so for me to understand the industry data, just how I lifted a client up, for me to understand the industry data was a way I could help my clients. So the industry data was X, and we would review my clients' numbers, and I would be able to, off the top of my head, because I'm pretty good with numbers, and say, you're outperforming the industry by 7%. I get it that you're down and everything's up, but do you realize you're outperforming the industry by 7%? So why do you think you're outperforming the industry by 7%? And how can we help you make that even better? So what I did for them right there is I changed their mindset. All they were focusing on was that their business is down. When I told them that they're outperforming the market, because I had the data to show them, all of a sudden they propped up in their chairs. Then I said, I have some ideas how we can potentially help you to, make that, make your numbers look even better than outperforming the market by 7%. And, they were all in, and we've done a bunch of stuff similar to, what was talked about by some of the other panelists. It wasn't any more about, what it is that we do. We did things for clients that we never, for example, shipping into grocery stores, having my people actually go into the back rooms and check in orders. I've had employees go and people called out sick. go pack groceries at checkout stands because they were short employees. So, I mean, things of that nature, and those things now, I believe, talking about building your foundation of your business, which is what I think my theme has been, will pay huge dividends as things turn around. So, that was one of the tactics that we use as a specific example, and we still we saw it work. And we've actually built out an entire new business intelligence platform around understanding our clients' data and industry data, because we saw how much it talked to them right now.
Beautiful, thank you. This question is really for all three of you, or for you actually, is how to reach in this environment high net worth individuals. What are some of the tactics or tools that you would use to reach out to new potential clients, and any tricks that you would be happy to share with people? Before I ask Leibel to take the lead on it, I just wanted to, Mark mentioned the book. It's called You Reveal by Masora Publication, and I definitely recommend everybody to read it. Leibel, please take it away with some new tactics that you tried, some tricks that to reach people.
Absolutely. So it's really interesting, and I think it goes back to a point that a lot of guys are making, is you have to create value. People that are high net worth individuals, they're successful, right? So there's people chasing them all the time. So what are they always getting? They're always getting an ask. They're always getting an ask. So how do you break out of being just the one of many giving an ask? It's being able to show them how you can help them. They're also struggling right now. High net worth individuals are running companies that are having a difficult time. So in any way that I can help them, for example, I'll give you just a personal example of how we are connected. So at any point where let's say I'm doing a headshot in a company, right? So I'm photographing everyone, including the C-suite and the CEO. So I could take their picture and say, have a beautiful day. Or I can utilize my unique strength of human connection, showcase to them how powerful they could be or how they look in such an image, and then slowly just give them an opportunity. Hey, I want to let you know this is what I'm doing with my clients right now. I really appreciate that you brought us in for X and Y. Can I gift you something really incredible? I think you're going to like it. I just want 10 minutes of your time. It's going to be my gift to you, right? And okay, right, we're there anyway. Sit down and impress them. So if you could find a way not to, and again, it's everyone's, detectors are very clear these days. If you're asking me if you want me to give to you because I know I really want, no one's interested. But if you can genuinely be interested, know your skill sets, and actually give to them, and a lot of times it's not giving to them because you can't reach them. But a lot of times what happens is I'll give to people right below them, right? But as soon as you have the opportunity to give someone a taste and to put in front of them, then you open up opportunities. So really, really, we often say it's nice to give. Everyone's looking to give to get. If you actually feel like you're going to give from your essence, it's felt, and they feel it because they're naturally good at what they do because they've got to that level. And that's kind of where we've seen give to give, and then people feel it.
Thank you. Naftali, could you shortly, some tactics that you tried now to get new and high net worth individuals into your Rolodex?
My practice, yeah. So first of all, I want to give everybody, first of all, Mark, thank you for plugging my book. My book is called You Revealed by ArtScroll. In the beginning of the book, there's an email address. I make a guarantee. You buy the book. If it doesn't make you a better salesperson, send me an email and I will refund your purchase price plus tax. So my whole business is high net worth individuals, and in some instances, ultra high net worth individuals. And Baruch Hashem, as we said on the pre-call, my business grew about 38% during the pandemic, which was astonishing both to me and JP Morgan. High net worth individuals see a lot of artificial people on a daily basis. The people they work for are artificial. The people that pander to them are artificial. These are people who are putting on a front, a face. They're all plastic. They're all veneered. They're all intimidated, and they're not real. I have always found that high net worth individuals are human beings just like everybody else. And in some instances, they're lonely. In some instances, they're isolated, because when you live in a world where everybody's trying to sell you something or get something from you, you become very, very isolated. And when they find a true human being, a genuine human being, it's like they flower. It's unbelievable how it works. So this isn't just during the pandemic, this is always. Everything that I said before is true. They want a real person to give them real information. Real information is sometimes something they don't want to hear. It's something they need to hear. These people are being pandered to all the time, and people are building their ego, and they're giving them as bad advice because they're intimidated to tell them. When you walk in there with your emunah, that saying the emes v'yatzav v'nachain is the only way to conduct yourself in the business world. When you know that parnasa comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and not from this person, no matter how big and wealthy they are, no matter whether you drove out to the Hamptons and met them on their beachfront property, no matter if there's a Rolls Royce in the driveway or not, they are human beings. They're a bus of a dumb, just like everybody else. And that puts you in a different mindset. It puts you in the mindset of being a human being who's there to help another human being. And when you tell these people what they need to hear, when you give them real information, when you don't, when you're not intimidated by them like everybody else in their life, unless they're an egomaniac or a narcissist, they will respond in that way.
Wow.
Touch them personally. Talk to them as humans. Hear what they have to say. Let them speak. Draw them out. I have won more clients without saying a word, without bringing a single chart to a meeting, than I have by just listening and hearing what they have to say. If you're showing a chart, it's about you. If you're asking an insightful question, it's about them. If you're listening, it's about them. If you're talking, it's about you. High net worth individuals want to be listened to. They want to be drawn out. They want real relationships. So whatever it is you're doing for a living, if you are trying to get to those people, be yourself. Be your funny, interesting, inquisitive, curious self. Don't try to be like everybody else.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. At least it's really to close it off and share how you in today's time got new clients, people that you deal with are running large facilities. There many different people are approaching them all the time. How do you expand your network?
Sure. So I really want to just come off what Naftali said, because I think he's right on target. You have to really show an interest in them personally and be a person to them. But I'll give you some practical tips, which may be a little bit of a different approach, just so people can walk away with something practical and something they can do. Try to figure out, and it's definitely more difficult when you're not in person. When you're meeting them in person, you have much more opportunity for this, but try to figure out what interests them. What are they into? And I'll give you an example right here. We're all on this panel. We're all looking at what's going on the other panelist cameras. I don't know if everybody noticed, but it's something that you'll pick up. Label Schwartz, for example, if you notice, he has fantastic lighting that's setting him up to make him look good, because that's what he does. He's a photographer. And if you show an interest, Label, that's amazing. How do you do that? Show an interest in what he did for himself. I don't know if you noticed, but Mark Bodner, the first time around, before the technical difficulty, we had a different angle on his camera. We saw some pictures of him biking. Show an interest in that. Hey, did you do bike for Chai? I don't know. Ask him questions, because that's what he's interested in. That's what he likes. We know Naftali has a book. We know Naftali Miller has a picture behind him of, it looks like the Siyam Hashas. I know we had that discussion. Find out what interests them. Figure out what makes them tick and what they're into. Whatever they're passionate about, they want to talk about. And I'll tell you a secret. Most people like talking about themselves and their interests. So if you figure out what that is, and it's definitely more difficult until you get to know people better to figure out what that is, but that's what they want to talk about. It could be anything. They could be into snow globes. Send them a snow globe because that's what they're into. Whatever that is, try to figure that out. It's difficult, but if you take the time and you really have an eye for that kind of thing, you'll notice it more. And that's what people would like to talk about. And I think that's a very good tip to reach individuals that you may not be able to reach otherwise.
Beautiful. Mark, could you just share if during this pandemic, how if you were able to expand your client network and getting new customers into the company?
To me, it's a very short answer. Every interaction you have, both in business and in your personal life, treat everyone like high net individuals, because what if you want to be an attractor, right? You want to be an attractor. I always tell my employees, I want to get my next employee not from a headhunting agency, from a referral from one of you. I want to be an attractor. How are you an attractor? Treat people right. If you treat people right, you will be an attractor. And then the high net individuals, whatever that means, as Naftali said, they're all basar v'dam. It's if you have the true emunah and the bitachon where it's all coming from, that's what it is. So, treat people well. Words are so. I mean, it's so hard to give a compliment, but it's so easy to give a compliment. I got a text. I'll end with this. I got a text. My son's learning in Eretz Yisrael. I got a text from a random person. He was there for Shabbos. Her boys love them. Her husband happens to be the Shayul Umeshev in Yeshiva, and it said, and he's steiging and doing great. I felt like I was walking on clouds a whole month of Shabbos. So that person has no idea what the ripple effect of that 2-sentence note. Treat people well. Treat whoever you come into contact with in the business world, treat them well. And because you know what I've learned in business, today they're not the decision maker. Tomorrow they may be.
Wow.
And they'll remember that you treated them well.
Beautiful. Someone just put on the text that you were a new salesman for you, and you treated him very well. And I would just like to close up and just share everybody with a 30-second story of everything that I heard today. I think how it can make a difference. I was in LA about a year ago, and I had an late flight out, and I went to the stewardess to the counter, and I said to the counter, I wanted to get on an earlier flight. They said there's no room. I said to the lady, you have a way of saying no. Even when you're saying no, just your mannerism and the way you had to make me feel good. 2 minutes later, she calls me and goes, Mr. Miller, we have room for you on the flight. That flight was booked. There were people. I'm on the flight, feel terrible. I come home, in the middle of the night, my appendix burst. If I would have been on the flight, the later flight, it would have burst mid-air. So I think our life, I think everything we learn is not just about sales, getting things and getting people to motivate, Be'ez Hashem. I think if you are in tune to people and you give your compliments, Be'ez Hashem, you'll be matzliach. Thank you, each one of you, for joining today. Thank you for the panelists. I think they are all individuals that practice this in their own lives, and it's a tremendous chus for Agudas Yisrael to host this webinar. Thank you all. Have a great day.